It's room up here on the 2nd of April 1911, on the first floor of the Salisbury Hotel, Folkestone. Robert Archibald Primrose Macpherson was born. This is his story. Rob's father, Captain James Macpherson of the Indian Army, was 34, and his mother, Constance Margaret, formerly Primrose, just 24. Whilst they returned to England to give birth, their eldest son Jim remained in India with Connie's sister, Aunt Evie, and her family, which included cousin Hazel Connor. Okay, I'm at the British Library today, where they hold all the records of India and the India Office, to see if I can find a bit about Rob's life, so what happened in the first 10 years of his life before he was sent away to school. Where they lived, see if I can find any information about what life was like for expats and sons of officers living in India in between 1911 and 1922. When Rob was 3 years old, the First World War broke out. Rob's father, Major James Macpherson, DSO, was serving in the 2nd Battalion of the 124th Folkestone Infantry.
Oh, what a life it was. A life that, though now passed into history, still haunts the world with its echoes and the words and phrases which have embellished the language. The world of Pune, Delhi, Simla, and the road to Mandalay. Truckers and chota pegs, tiffin and topis, Bakka Sahibs, Pankawalas, memories of the mutiny, and 1,000 brushes with the godless. Loudly roared the Indian tiger. The Campbells are coming, and you're a better man than I am, Gangadin. Such was Victoria's empire, a way of life, a state of mind, and whatever one thought of it, a mighty, powerful, impressive structure, millions upon millions, all together under the flag upon which the sun never sets.
It was a matter of pride that the 2nd Battalion of the 124th Folkestone Infantry was the first Indian battalion raised during the war to join a brigade on active service. And so on the 26th of October 1916, they sailed from Bushehr on board the SS Budwa, arriving at Basra the next day. They proceeded in a steamer and 2 river barges up the River Tigris, where they joined British Army units, all under the command of General Maude.
In Iraq, things remain fairly quiet after General Maude captures Baghdad in the spring of 1917.
By March 1917, the battalion marched through Baghdad to Bakuba and thence to Sharaban on the 23rd of March. The next day they were shelled by the Turks, and the commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Chauncey, was wounded. Rob's father, still a major, assumed command of the regiment until August 1917. The Baluchis remained in Mesopotamia until Rob's 7th birthday in 1918. In September that year, as the First World War ended, soldiers were given leave in England or Egypt for 1 month, and from Egypt they were posted to Palestine for 2 years. James Macpherson returned to India in August 1920 when Rob was 9 years old and was made colonel. He took command of the 267th Punjabis in Bangalore, where he remained for the next 4 years. P&O passenger lists show us that Colonel Mac returned to England alone in February 1921 for a month. It is possible that he spent time looking at schools for his sons Rob and Jim, for in May of the same year, Rob, aged 11, started at Epsom College, probably because his mother's cousin, the Earl of Rosebery, was president of the school. His elder brother arrived the following year. I went to meet the school archivist to find out more.
The Rosebery connection, it's well known that the Earl of Rosebery came to Durdens in, I think, the 1880s, which is an estate on the other side of Epsom. But the Durdens land extended almost as far as the college here. And you can see, if you go down the roads that are lined with trees, that was one of Lord Rosebery's things. So he made a great imprint on Epsom, on the north of Epsom. Now, in those days, we had a very large event in the year called Founders' Day. More than anything else, it was a time when there would be a major speech by a great political figure. And the Earl of Rosebery made one of those speeches, and he made the kind of speech that impressed headmasters and governors alike. And so suddenly, very quickly, he was made president of the college. that carried on, I think, from the late 1890s through until his death in 1934. And between those times, he was a considerable presence in the school. The boys knew him and were very impressed by his presence. There are some rather scurrilous stories, one of which I was told by the son of a member of staff who was here in the school at that time. There's a cottage just beyond the farm field, just beyond the school grounds. It's a very small cottage, very secluded, and I was told that that's where Lord Rosebery kept his mistress. So his interest in the college may not have been completely for the college's benefit. So what we do when we first look for people's history is we start with the printed school register, which is here. And here you can see Lieutenant Colonel Robert Archibald Primrose Macpherson. Now, it tells us quite a lot about him. It tells us that he was born in 1911, that he came in 1922, which is up 11. Here. That he was, an important guy in the school because he was a prefect. He was part of the first 15, which is so he's certainly a rugby player, and also it shows that he came right the way through. He was in the lower school, the junior school, if you like. So he was here before he was 13, and he was later in Car House. Now it goes through that he also has a brother here, which we know about, and that he was killed in action in Hong Kong in 1941. So all the essential, perhaps, information is there, including a little bit about his army record. But this would be what was known in 1955 when this was published. What is even more important is that he's a prefect. Now, in those days, you only get called a prefect if you were head of house.
Okay.
So he was head of Car House in his last year.
I must have got it from him then. That was my head of house.
There you go. You see, it's a family thing. Yes, he's a considerable person around the school and the kind of person who you'd expect to go places. We can see his headmaster was Mr. Powell, who was originally, when he came to the school, not a clergyman, but who was ordained while he was here. Okay. And in that sense, he was the first headmaster to get the job, not as a clergyman. And then we can see all the different teachers here. There must be about 25 of them here.
Look at the gym teacher, old Sergeant Major.
Moja, again, a great figure in the school. Very, very tough, very, very strict indeed. And in that sense... Would he have taught him boxing? He certainly would have done, yes. In fact, I think we probably got a picture of him with the boxing team. We can see that here, quite clearly in the picture, where you can see Sergeant Major Moja in front, with the fencing balcony behind, and the ropes and all his other torture machines around the place. Now, he was quite a hard man, but this would have been his area altogether. So this is where all the boxing would have taken place, and R.A.P. Macpherson would have done his thing. So you've got to imagine probably a boxing ring set up down in the centre there, and it would be done with the school looking on. And we can find out at the back of them all exactly where they came in their class.
So Macpherson Jr., how did you perform?
Okay, now then, Macpherson, R.A.P., literary 6, well, we knew that from the other thing anyway, and we find that you can count your way down, that he's about halfway down the class.
Not exactly brilliant.
Well, he was obviously expected to do well because he was in the 16, so it can't be that bad. And his brother, just up there, you see? So it must have been quite odd for them both to be in classes of, in effect, the same standing, the literary 6th and the modern 6th. at the same time.
That's odd. His brother was 2 years older than him.
Yes.
Like
This one is
16.
1927 to 28, so he's probably 17 at that stage.
Oh, here we are.
There we go. Car, senior steeplechase. Okay. That's interesting, isn't it?
What would that have... So that's a sports cup.
It's like a cross-country cup nowadays, we would probably call it.
He was tall. I think he was 6'2", so...
Yes, he must have had a lot of energy,
thing.
absolutely. This shows him when he was...
No, this is Uncle Jim.
This is Uncle Jim.
JDP.
JDP,
yeah.
Okay. So he's actually probably in about the 5th form at the time.
He's got that look of a 5th form boy.
Yes,
You still recognise that look.
But it is the first 15. So he's either in the 5th form or in the lower 6th, and he's not quite at the top of the school at that particular stage.
25, 26, that's, yeah.
Yes. That's him there.
Yeah.
And you notice he's got 2 badges on his front, which means that he's got house colours twice. So, in other words, he's already a competent sportsman, and he's doing very well. The cap he has on is the 30 cap. So that suggests that before he was in the first 15, he'd already been in the second 15 for a while. So his credentials as a sportsman are very clear, let's put it like this. And it's not really surprising that he comes out as being more prominent in the following year. If we put that one down, we can then have a look at this one. Now this is a little move onwards, okay? But this is the other brother, is it not?
Yeah, this is my grandfather here.
Yes.
This one. So the younger brother.
Yes. Now, you see, he's only got the 1 star on his front, and he doesn't have a 30 cap. You see, so there's a little difference between them at that particular stage.
Oh, here we've got also JDP Macpherson. So maybe Jim wasn't.
He was probably ill.
Ill, yeah, wasn't well.
So he should have been there. Now that I think is the year between. So that we have 1925 to 26. Yeah. 1926 to 27, and then I think somewhere or other we've got, I'm sorry, it's this rather small photograph, 1928 to 1929. So this is the Corps, I should think, on their annual General Inspection Day, parading down the hill. It's probably in the 1920s or the early 1930s, so it wouldn't be very different whenever it was. They're still in First World War uniform, of course, as they were right the way through until the Second World War. And it's a very large corps, and I suspect...
The whole school, would that have been?
That would have been the whole school. I think they took it very, very seriously, and they all had to pass an exam called Certificate A, which entitled them to become officers.
Left school in 1929, this is where his parents had moved to. His father had retired from the Indian Army, and they'd come to respectable Folkestone, Earls Avenue, Turlingham Mansions. The sea's just down here. It's quite noisy today, but I can imagine once it would have been a rather gracious, wide street, leafy place to live. After a summer in Folkestone, Rob was admitted to the Royal Military College, Camberley, on the 30th of August 1929. Gentlemen cadets for cavalry and infantry regiments went to Camberley, whilst gunners, sappers and signallers went to Woolwich, known also as the Shop. All candidates had to have passed their school certificate with a good pass before taking the entrance exam. It was quite possible to pass the exam but still fail to get a place, because the headmaster of one's school had to submit a report, which counted for 30 marks, and the interview for another 30 marks. The interview board typically consisted of a rear admiral, a major general and an air vice marshal. There were no uniforms to begin with, but you had to wear your cap at all times when you were not in your room. In other words, if you woke in the night and wanted to go to the loo, you had to get out of bed, put on your dressing gown, slippers and cap before going to the loo. There was church parade every Sunday, and all gentlemen cadets had to attend the parade. They were inspected either by the commandant or by some visiting general, and then slow marched past by half companies. It was quite a spectacle. Rob's passing out parade, shown here, was inspected by the Army's grand old man, Field Marshal the Duke of Connaught. Rob left the military academy on 9th of July 1930. His Order of Merit for passing out was 29th out of 174. It wasn't until the January of 1931 that the London Gazette noted the undermentioned gentlemen cadets from the Royal Military Academy to be second lieutenants, 29th Jan 1931, infantry, Royal Scots, Robert Archibald, Primrose, Macpherson. I'm at the Royal Scots Museum in Edinburgh Castle today. See if I can find a bit more about Rob's life from between the time he joined the army and when he married Marjorie in 1936. So it's the first half of the 1930s that I'm trying to find out about today. An MAC PH ERSON.
First initial.
R, it's R.A.P.
I was going to check the London Gazette and see what we have. I'm just going to go check something quickly. Yeah, I'll go check that first. Basically, this here's a regimental journal. What we have through in my office is an index to people and places.
Oh, fantastic.
So I'll just have a look and see if there's an index card for them.
So I've got the index here. Let's see if I can find him.
We have quite a big extensive card for him, and it's got in brackets here, McFaggies, that must be his nickname.
Macpherson R.A.P. McFaggies, there we are, we'll hold it up. I never knew that. The annual regimental dinner was held at the Mayfair Hotel, Berkeley Square on May the 27th. So this is 1932. Okay, so playing rugby. He played for his school, so that figures. The battalion team has improved very noticeably since last season, particularly outside the scrum. Handling of the halves and three-quarters has become much safer, and there's definite sign of combination between all of them. The forwards are settling down. Team. CQMS, what does that stand for?
Company Quartermaster Sergeant.
Okay. Lieutenants Mackenzie, Kennedy, Duke, Drysdale, Macpherson and Morrison. In the third round we were beaten by the 2nd Battalion Royal Tank Corps by 17-0, not too impressive. 25th of March, 1933. When Sir Edward Alton arrived on the parade ground of the battalion, which was drawn up in a line under Lieutenant Colonel Nigel Fargus, with a general salute and after inspection began as drawn. First the band in scarlet tunics and picturesque Kilmarnock bonnets marched up and down in slow time, and then the escort to the colour, drawn from the machine gun company commanded by Lieutenant J.K.M. Drysdale, moved out from the line to receive the colour, which was handed to 2nd Lieutenant R.A.P. Macpherson. Very good.
Right, well, hopefully there should be a picture of that then.
Ah.
Because 1933, that's the 300th anniversary of the Royal Scots.
Ah.
So there was a big pageant and...
Oh, now we've got a picture of him being handed something on the loo at home. Maybe that was it?
Yes, that
Yeah.
good chance it could be, yes.
Yeah. So in the inter-unit boxing competition, and he was light heavyweight, 2nd Lieutenant Macpherson. We can work out how much he weighed then.
Yeah, and he's also his 1st battalion.
Ah, I'm afraid he lost. Light heavyweight, Lieutenant Macpherson lost to Lance Corporal Rogers, a close fight which was lost in the last round. This was the Royal Scots versus the Royal Berkshire Regiment. Did you have any time for soldiering? Here we are. Rugby football, in the team, R.A.P. Macpherson. The only cup match played here has been the Army Cup match against the 2nd Battalion, the Dorsetshire Regiment, and so is reported more fully than usual below. Played on the 22nd of November, this is 1934. So this is all in England, this is going on?
Yes.
So when you look at the records, it looks like they spend their whole time in kind of
Training.
Aden and, you know, all abroad in Pakistan and things.
Yes.
But actually they were...
It tended to be one battalion would be in home service and another battalion, so you find that the 2nd battalion was in India at that time,
Okay.
but the 1st battalion was in Aldershot.
Okay.
And then later on they'd swap over.
Okay. Lieutenant R.A.P. Macpherson has been posted to the depot for a tour of duty. So that's the advice, Lieutenant
Yes, he's replaced.
Okay, Lieutenant M. Shaftday, so July 34.
So depot was Glencore's barracks, that's Pennycook.
Okay,
So
where's
that's
that?
other side of Edinburgh.
Okay, so that puts him in Edinburgh, July 34.
Yes.
Okay, so that's how he meets my granny in Edinburgh.
Right.
It's great. We had hardly any pictures, but I'm starting to there we are. Oh, can you get it? So there he is. Middle of the picture.
Training a gun on a high-speed aircraft demands great concentration. There's no time for distraction.
What does support company mean?
So sort of machine guns, mortars, the chaps that were... You might find later on that that's why you went to Ordnance Corps.
The latter part of July and the beginning of August saw a number of depot officers and NCOs doing duty with the territorial battalions in Camp Montrose. Lieutenants Masterton, Smith and Macpherson spent varying periods there in various capacities. It's October 34. Where's this? Is this at
Montrose, it's on the coast.
Okay.
So it's where the TA would go for their annual camp, their 2-week training.
Oh. The mess in camp at Montrose enjoyed the company of a number of friends and visitors. Among those present on duty were Major G. Hall, Captain Cameron, Lieutenant R.A.P. Macpherson from the depot. Social visitors, no. Best camp in recent years. It was both a pleasure and benefit to our training to have Lieutenant R.A.P. Macpherson of the depot. Especially grateful for their
I
assistance.
feel like that's the support company of the TA. So he's been helping the support company of the TA. Then
Okay.
obviously he must be being a support company, will be trained in machine guns, mortar, the use of them.
Okay.
Something.
Showing
more
them,
a benefit.
showing them how to use their guns.
Yes.
Okay. His son carries on that tradition, showing his granddaughters how to use their guns. Okay, the regimental golf meeting. More sport was held this year at Prince's Sandwich. An account of it appears elsewhere. I'm very pleased once more to see so many royals who are not at present with the 1st Battalion. Among them, Lieutenant Macpherson. There we are. Playing golf.
134.
Oh, lost again. Lieutenant Macpherson, Depot, RS, lost to Lieutenant Murray, Depot, the Cameroonians. This was the Lowland Depot's annual golf tournament, July 1935. He was a little distracted by July 1935. Oh, here he is. He's been giving money. £15. Donation to the pipe band, is it? Okay, the pipe band has reached satisfactory strength. This pleasing state of affairs is entirely due to the following generous donations.
I only found that out recently that it was the officers that paid for the pipe band of the battalion.
Oh,
They maintained the pipe band.
oh, very good. Oh no, that's okay. They only gave £1 each, this little lot. That's a bit generous. 15 quid. Captain R.G. Watson has joined the depot staff and Lieutenant D.A. Duke relieves Lieutenant R.A.P. Macpherson there in February. So he's no longer at the depot from January 36. Lieutenant R.A.P. Macpherson has been selected to attend the 16th Ordnance Officers course, which assembles at the Military College of Science on the 1st of February 1930. He's being relieved by Lieutenant D.A. Duke from the 1st Battalion. Okay, so he's been trained in Ordnance.
So he went from depot to an ordnance course.
Okay. So this is January 36 and he married September 36. Okay, so
363.
he could have been 363.
Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Yeah, no, right, there,
He could
363.
have been saying in January, I want to marry this girl. So that could have been the case. They didn't move him later, but if they were training him then. So you're saying this is 5 miles from the centre of Edinburgh, so this sort of area, what kind of people lived around here, do you know?
Well, it was a sort of weekend retreat for the intelligentsia or the merchants of Edinburgh. They had their country houses here. If you go down the road a little bit, down what we call the Dell, you'll see it's a bit like almost like Italy. Beautiful houses, big gardens, lush foliage.
So if you moved out here, it had an air of respectability?
Certainly, indeed. Very genteel. And I think this is why this church, which is the Anglican church in Scotland, the Episcopal church as we call it, was quite well founded and well endowed.
It's a lovely church.
Beautiful, yes. About 100 years old.
So I had a rather grandfather and a grandmother of more humble means, shall we say. I haven't been to the house yet, but I gather it's a little terraced house somewhere along the road. So she wouldn't have been ashamed to bring him back here to be married, and this would have...
I think he would have been very impressed. It's a lovely part of Edinburgh, it still is.
Okay, so I'm in the car. My next stop is 25 Lockton Avenue, which is the house that Marjorie lived in when she got married to Rob. So I wonder, is this the door that Rob had to come and knock at, to come and ask permission to marry Marjorie? 25 Lockton Avenue. In 1936, Rob was posted to Stirling for duty. He and Marjorie lived at Bridge of Allen, and in May 1938, their son Malcolm James Macpherson was born. It's Bumper's baby album with Bumper's mum and daddy. Take a look at Puppy.
Oh, look.
That's a dog, not him.
No, that's Bumper's daddy with the dog. There's lots of dogs features here.
Doos.
Mac and the Doos.
Lots of roughies.
So here we've got, this is Malcolm James's baby book, but I think this is lovely. We've got a picture of our grandfather with his dog.
Or Granny's dog.
Or Granny's dog. And we've got baby in his very, very smart pram. This is on board a boat on his way to Hong Kong, 4 months old. There he is, 4 months old, near Aden. So I think they must have probably gone together because his father was still there at 9 weeks. And stop off in Singapore,
Arabic
go
writing,
on another
isn't it?
boat. And then there they are in Hong Kong, 6 months old.
Robin and Malcolm. United
Kowloon.
Services.
The United Services Club was the club in Hong Kong where they used to go and play golf, basically, on the veranda. This is my favourite. I love this photograph. So that was taken in Hong Kong.
I like that one.
Yeah. It's the only one you see of them together because there are no wedding photographs anywhere.
Mum, I like that one.
So now this is interesting because here they are, Repulse Bay, March 1940, having a day out. So it's charming, isn't it? And this is exactly when Rob's father died in Folkestone. So there he is, sort of on the beach, and I wonder, did he know then? Did he not know? How long did it take for the information? Horrid to be kind of 9 weeks on a troop ship away from being able to go back
for a funeral.
War at home, Second World War had started back in England, and at the moment it's all looking rosy, isn't it? But I think in between here and here we had Pearl Harbor.
Evacuees, women and children of British residents in Hong Kong, reach Sydney and safety. Arrival of these innocent victims of international politics brings sharp realization to Australia of the uncertainty of tomorrow.